So welcome back to the Black and Blue podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Morgan, episode 27. I want to thank all our supporters and viewers thus far. Just stick with us. We got some exciting things for the future. But I got to remind you, if you aren't subscribed or following us on all the platforms, please hit that subscribe button or that follow button. Also hit the like. It helps us, work against the system. Check us out on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. For whether you want to listen or just or watch and listen, those are all the platforms that we're on. And we'd like to thank our sponsors, ROKA Performance Eyewear and Unit Solutions. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, Trevor Millar, which is the co-founder and COO of Ambio Life Sciences, which is recently featured in the Netflix documentary In Waves and War, which follows 3 former Navy SEALs, Marcus Capone, DJ Shipley, and Matty Roberts, as they return home carrying unseen wounds of war. When conventional treatments failed them, they turned to a path dared to walk: psychedelic assisted therapy. Trevor.
Kyle.
Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Good day hanging out with you.
Yeah, so you've been with us for a couple days. You flew all the way from the West Coast and more specifically, from Mexico and then crossing over into San Diego to fly over here. But you've been able to spend the day with us yesterday, and we got to spend some time
shooting guns.
Outside of your comfort zone, maybe a little bit.
Shooting guns.
Yeah.
I'm a Canadian who didn't grow up with a lot of guns. The first time I shot a gun was with Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
And you took me to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Handguns and exercises and clearing the chambers and
one of the
dead
things,
bullets. What were those ones?
dummy rounds. Yeah.
Dummy rounds. Man,
we were working on some
intense.
malfunctions, immediate action, and then magazine changes. So what was one of the things you said was like Sean yelled at you quite a few times about the trigger finger discipline stuff.
Yeah, I said yelled, but Sean was,
you know what I mean?
He consistently said trigger finger, because I don't know, you grow up playing with guns without proper instruction and your finger's always on the trigger. So keeping it straight was a new thing.
Yeah.
You guys didn't yell at me. You were very kind.
That's what
you still needed to be kind numerous times.
Yeah. Over and over.
Yeah.
No, but I thought it was, it was really, one of the cool parts about doing that with you was as soon as I put that belt on you with the, the pistol belt with the gun and all the things, you could see this kind of wave of emotion kind of come over you. And I could feel it too. And I was like, hey, you all right? And he's like, I just got like this overwhelming emotion of like, nervousness and maybe even fear. And I'm like, that's perfectly okay. Now you know how we feel when we're going through the treatments with you, and we're going to get into all of that. But I just think it's, I said it kind of jokingly, but it was really cool to be able to, this is my dojo, and, to be able to experience everything I've experienced with you, and so many others have, as it highlights in that documentary, which we watched last night Eric and I watched last night for the first time, and to know that you were here, for the release of it, the premiere of it, but also, how we met, and then to spend the time on the range, it was just like, you're going to be a little uncomfortable, but trust me. You're safe. Like, you're going to learn. I'm going to meet you where you are and then push you a little.
Yeah.
And we did it, we spent about half a day on the range.
Cool. It was a lot of fun. Once I got the nervousness was just the adrenaline of being strapped like that. And then knowing there was some loud noises upcoming. Those headphones were amazing though.
Yeah. I put the the electronic ear pro on him, and he was like, this is amazing. Yeah. I can hear everything.
Yeah. First of all, it's like having super hearing, and then you don't get blown away by the gunshot.
Yep. It blocks certain decibels. But what I thought was cool too is just how intentional that you were with knowing the reality of like, we can have fun while we're doing it, but it's serious, and that's all I want. with anyone that we're training is just, man, take this serious. Let's have fun doing it. But that's the safety side of it. We have to be aware. We have to be where our feet are from a psychology perspective. Like, hey, I get it. If you're thinking about that shot, you already fired, and you're not, and you've moved ahead to looking at that, and then trying to diagnose why it's over here versus there, and then you're not thinking about the weapon itself and the how you're handling it. You're skipping a step. Like it's one of those things where, and everyone does it. We especially when we shoot somewhere, either somewhere we're like, oh, that was awesome. I hit it right where I wanted to, or why is it over there? Why is it over there? And then we just kind of obsess about those things. And it's like, hold on, let's get the muscle, like memory side of the tactile, response to, I'm done, trigger fingers out. I'm bringing the gun back a bit to that heightened ready position. But, you were very intentional about it. So absolutely trainable. You're welcome back anytime.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
I may just take you up on that.
But, I think it's, let's talk about the In Waves of War then. I think it just came out last night, hour and 45 minutes. It's not a super long documentary. And one of the things I was super impressed with, obviously I know you, I know that the place, the treatment facilities that they were showing in the documentary. So it was taking me back to those moments. Some of the things that Marcus, which I don't know super well, but we've met a few times, and actually, we occasionally, jump on the phone and stuff and chat, either via text or voice. But the same with DJ as well. And I don't know Maddie, but their stories, just listening to them and how vivid they were telling them, more specifically the combat side of it. And I was just like, whew. Mm-hmm. But it was so good for me because it just took me back, and I was so grateful that they were sharing it the way they were, just candid and honest, and even the graphics, like the way the special effects, the way that they were telling these stories, that had they tried to mimic that either with, real people, it would have been too much for somebody that, maybe isn't further along in their recovery and healing like myself. It would be too vivid. I don't like seeing, blood and gore. Yeah. I used to watch all these movies and stuff, and I don't do any of that anymore. Yeah. And it's one of those things, people may say, oh, what's wrong with you? No, man, it's not okay. Like, I don't want to glorify something that I've seen it. It's not like I'm being naive about it. I've witnessed it. I've put my hands into it. I've been a part of it. So even the way that they did the special effects, I thought was a really good touch to
animated.
It was intentional. Yeah, it's animated. Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
And the animation extends into the psychedelic visions when those guys are on Ibogaine as well. And that was really cool. Really nailed it.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a lot of animation attempts around psychedelic visions, and none of them are as close to reality as this. Ibogaine may be a little easier to animate as well, because it does have that
visualization or visual.
A lot of people do have kind of life reviews and see images and kind of flip through images. So yeah, they did a really good job, and I'm glad that movie's finally out. Like, it's hard. This is the second documentary I've been in, and the hardest part is just waiting to show the world the movie,
Hey, did you pull up the In Waves and More? Starship's going to pull it up just so our viewers can see what we're talking about. And that's the kind of that animation that you can see where that's Maddie
facing off
Roberts
of
that's facing. There. Yeah. And you just mentioned something that I thought was also a really cool observation that people might not, on the surface, really appreciate the level of depth that it takes to highlight these three individual experiences utilizing the same medication, the same treatment, and the experiences they had. They were all three very, very different. There was a life review to it, and that's kind of like a common thread with Ibogaine, I believe. But even in that short documentary, it was just like very profound how it impacted and met all of them, kind of where they were, as it pertained to Marcus, DJ, and Maddie.
Yeah, Marcus had his journey years before the documentary was filmed. DJ had his first journey years before the documentary was filmed, but they showed DJ's story throughout the movie anyway. Like he did a lot of reflecting on his first journey. Well, so did Marcus as well, but DJ's it almost showed him as if he'd gone through Ambio at the time. And then Maddie was brand new to it. And DJ, in order to get Maddie to do it, ended up doing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool to try to put my finger on too, because I had known that Marcus had done it, years ago. And I'd also known DJ had as well. So I had assumed Maddie had, and then when that came out, I was like, oh no, he's doing it for the first time with DJ in the documentary.
Yeah. He kind of became the perfect protagonist. Like that movie they started filming, John and Bonnie Cohen, John Shank, a couple who produced and directed it. They started filming with Amber and Marcus years ago. And then they came down to Ambio with another group actually, and were focused on a different guy, and were there throughout the week and shot a lot of footage on different guys that came through at that time. And I guess it wasn't quite good enough. They were looking for the right storyline. Yeah. And it wasn't until Maddie agreed to do this, which he was super reluctant to. Like, I met Maddie a couple years before we shot the movie, and Marcus was like, we really want to get this guy down for medicine. He needs it. But he was very reluctant to do it. And, then they said, would you do this movie? And he really didn't want to. And I think that made him the perfect candidate to be in the movie.
And I want to thank you, Maddie, for having the courage to do it, and the faith and trust to do it with Trevor and with the team at Ambio. And obviously the relationship you have with DJ and Marcus it really shows in this documentary. It really shows that brotherhood, it can be real, and it was beautiful, man, the way that they shared that experience with him. And I mean, it was the most profound part of that whole documentary, was what Maddie was sharing and how he was sharing it, and how even on the other side, where he even said he's coming back to his faith, which I thought was beautiful based on what he had said before, and just how
huge,
how openly resistant he was to even talking, in the earlier part of the documentary. And they're condensing, your life and DJ's and Marcus's into an hour and 45 minutes, which no one can really appreciate. Like, they did a great job of not dishonoring it or glossing over it. But
I think the movie did such a good job of showing their brotherhood while they were serving, and highlighted various moments within them being Navy SEALs where they really came together and suffered through things together. But then from what I've learned from working with so many of you guys is you miss that brotherhood. Mm-hmm. But then they came together with the brotherhood, this time of healing. And now it's that brotherhood of healing, especially with this movie coming out, that has, is a new bond in a new way.
Yeah.
We see that with a lot of guys coming through.
No, it's an experience that, whether the people that you're, necessarily going through, it's a small setting anyways. And I think we'll definitely talk more about that, what it looks like from, hey, I'd like to, get some help with this, where do I start, to help, guide our viewers too, that maybe could benefit from this type of treatment. But I thought there was a really nice touch of how they also layered in the guys from the Stanford study, like the before and then the after. What a like, and it wasn't fake. It's not fake. They're not faking it. Like it's very real, but it looks like these guys are just acting, on the other side of it. And like, no. Like, that's a very real, I don't think a lot of people are going to think that they were acting, but
maybe
it wasn't.
If you showed them the end result without them having first seen where they were before,
yes,
you might have thought that they were acting.
That's a very, very valid point.
And, you know, without being too much of a spoiler, they show these guys before and after the treatment. Before the treatment, they are obviously miserable.
Yep.
And they ask them questions like, are you suicidal? Have you thought about suicide? And, you know, they get an affirmative. Afterwards, it's like, nope. Yep. Nope. Yeah. I'm great. Nope.
You know, and this just amazing. Like the remorse too, you know, of being like, it's not shame that's gripping them. It's remorse of like, I don't know how I even got to that point, man, but man, thank you. You know, and that's a really cool, way because what people may not know, cause it kind of got layered in there, is that study, was extremely, the results were extremely profound. This episode is sponsored by Unit Solutions, makers of the Unit 4 training rifle, a cutting-edge AR trainer built for those who train. The Unit 4 looks, feels, and fires like your real rifle, with recoil, full functionality, but the system features no primers, brass, or lead. That means that you can train safely with realistic reps at home, at the range, and everywhere in between. It's not airsoft. It's not a conversion kit. It's a purpose-built training platform trusted by pros and available to you. Free T&E program for professional agencies. Visit unitsolutions.com and use code Blk Blu to save 10%. That's code BLKNBLU, if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so 30 U.S. Special Forces veterans went to Stanford prior to coming to Ambio. They got brain scans. They got a battery of other tests. And it was directly the weekend before they came to Ambio. They came to Ambio. They would have done Ibogaine on the Tuesday night and then went immediately back to Stanford. So the next Saturday, Sunday, they would have got more brain scans, a battery of other tests. And the pre-brain scans were clearly showing traumatic brain injury. Post-brain scans showing it was largely reversed, if not entirely reversed in some of those guys. There's been one paper published out of that so far in the journal Nature Medicine, which is a prestigious medical journal. There's actually two papers. Another one was recently published. But the first one measured PTSD, depression, anxiety, and disability scores. All went from almost off the charts down to next to nothing after just one dose of Ibogaine. Yeah. They took those brain scans, ran them through an AI algorithm that determines the age of the brain. The brains on average got about 1.5 years younger. That's the average. So some were showing more than that. And just thinking of the brain scan, former Texas Governor Rick Perry has been public about his trip to Ambio now as well. And he's got the resources to get brain scans before and after his treatment as well. And his brain before looked like an average 72-year-old brain. Afterwards, his neurologist said it looks like a 45-year-old brain. So pretty amazing. But yeah. I love that. I just wanted to bring up again the point that you brought up about Matty having found his faith afterwards. And for me, it's, some people might look at medicines like this and say, you don't need this, just pray for Jesus. Mm-hmm. But for some people, the shell is so hard and so encrusted that you say something like that to some people and they'll basically tell you to F off. Yeah. But through an experience like Ibogaine, which can crack away at that shell, remove it entirely, melt it a little bit, then all of a sudden people are open to, God and Jesus again. And I think that was definitely the case with Maddie.
No, for sure. And the experiences I've had, even the groups that I was with, each time, I guess the common thread is like, a few of the guys are like, I don't really know what I believe in, or I don't believe in God, very openly saying that. And then by that Friday before we leave, every single one of them that said that were like, I don't know what's out there, man, but there's something out there. Yeah. And it's great. It's a power that's great. And man, that's what it's about is that's why the steps in recovery models of AA or NA, they work, because it starts with the acceptance of powerlessness to a substance, to a thing, that's taking hold of your life. And then the second one being, a belief in a power greater than yourself, a true belief, not just well, there might be. No, it's a belief, because the third step is one of the hardest. But once you break through that, like truly, that's where recovery is. And it's to not only surrender that affliction to that power, it's also to turn your life to that power.
Yeah.
And follow it. And for me, that's God. And it's as a Christian, as a surrendered Christian, and turn my life over to Christ, all of that's happened after my Ibogaine treatments. So,
yeah.
And I'm going to talk a lot more about that.
But it's, what you said is the true belief. Like those 12 steps work incredibly well. If you can truly believe and trust in and surrender to a higher power. But that step is so hard.
Yeah.
That is the biggest step imaginable for some people. But doing something like a therapy like this, which might be an answer to a very quiet prayer, I want help. I can't find help. Where can I get it?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden that prayer is answered through a medicine like this that opens you up to, oh, wow, maybe there is something bigger. And then once you've opened yourself up to that something bigger, then those 12 steps work like a charm.
Yep.
The other documentary I was featured in is called Dosed, dosedmovie.com. It was the story of one woman named Adrienne. There's her beautiful face right there. She was a person who used heroin, a polysubstance drug user, and she had tried everything. She had done AA, she had done NA, she'd done it again and again. She was really desperate for change.
In and out of rehabs.
Yeah. And then Ibogaine, through this documentary, it was actually, her friend was a filmmaker, said, why don't we just film your journey of recovery? And they had no idea that psychedelics might work. And they had no idea about Ibogaine, and that's all captured in the movie. But then they come to Ibogaine. She does that. She also does psilocybin mushrooms in a journey that I give her in the movie. And all of a sudden, she went to and loved AA and NA meetings because she understood the reality of a higher power. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, those 12 steps worked.
Yeah. No, if you haven't seen that documentary, it's powerful too, man. I think I watched it the first time before I went and did the first Ibogaine treatment with you, but then I watched it again after, in between the first and the second, and I had a newer appreciation for it, obviously. And, man, there's so much I wanted to say about that. I really do believe, because there's a lot of people that think that, even candidly myself too, like, I was sober for almost a year when I did that first treatment with you. And a lot of it was, bearing down and just 90 meetings in 90 days, just going through it, working through the steps with a sponsor. And, but ultimately was still meeting this wall of working through my fifth step stuff and trying to do that moral inventory and then making amends. It was just, yeah, I did it, but it was like, I didn't really do it. And that's honestly why, post treatments with Ibogaine and all the other things I've done since then, and turning my life over to Christ and getting into God's word, and then, spiritual growth, like in that sanctification process is I've come to this realization of like plateauing is a real thing too, in spiritual growth. Like, I think, we reach this level of what would say is sanctification, is becoming more Christ-like. And then if we're not continuing to get into God's word, into the community, as Christians, then we will plateau, and that's dangerous for anyone. So what I've realized is I'm actually going to work through, even though I'm not active in AA anymore, I'm going to work through the steps with Tom Spooner.
Yeah. Nice.
Cause I'm more ready now to do all that work, because it's such a beautiful process that does work. But man, some of us need rescuing from ourselves. And, I was one of those guys, and we know a lot, you've encountered a lot of those guys too, and gals. And what I think people need to understand is I'm going to have you talk about more specifically what Ibogaine is, but like you bring in your beliefs into that environment. But one of the things that you do very well in your team is you feel God's presence, and he does it in a way, Trevor does it in a way where it's a part of the, the structure of it, where, we're praying over meals, and holding hands and doing those things. That's so powerful and so good for us and beautiful. And you do it in a very, what's the word? Not delicate, but, a very meeting people where they are kind of way.
Yeah. I want the atheists to feel comfortable as well.
Which is challenging.
We don't overdo it.
Which is challenging, but I did feel that. And I felt from the moment that first experience of having a meal with you at the facility was like, okay, I'm safe here, Nice. And because it is scary, like even for people like me and all the guys from the documentary, it's scary because it's like, oh, am I letting, this voodoo into my life? Am I this spiritual darkness? Man, we live in darkness, excuse me. We have to combat 3 things in our lives every single day. Maybe one of those, maybe not every day, but 2 of them absolutely every single day. That's our own sinful nature, ourselves, right? That's the world and the culture, the systems, our society, the flesh. Those are 2 inherently in the same almost, but those are 2 of the enemies. And then the third being the devil and his demons. And a third of the angels, like they can't be everywhere, that are now demons that fell with Lucifer. They can't be everywhere. They can't be in your mind, but they can, if you open footholds, they can become strongholds. And that's what people get stuck on as Christians when it comes to this type of psychedelic assisted therapies. And I can only speak on what I've done. And I've learned that if I speak to my own experience, then, how can I be wrong? I could be misguided, misled, sure. But if I speak to my experiences, not tell you, hey, you should try this, man, you should do that, and I've never experienced it, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you should read this book. It'll help you. I haven't read it. Why am I telling you? So, make informed decisions as you're looking through these different types of treatment for substance abuse, for post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury, and all the other things in between. But make an informed decision in the sense of like, speak with people that have actually experienced it, that are on the paths that you want to be on. And that's how we can, you can decide if it's right for you or not. Yeah. I'll say that having experienced it twice, there's people that, I mentioned this earlier, that walked in and said, I don't believe in anything as far as, a power or God. And then there's people that are stuck. Like if God is real, then why have I been part of so much trauma, so much like evil, in this world and combat and the things that we've had to see and do and to take other human beings' lives, and it's one of those things that starts to change your own morality. But you got to answer that question first is what is the moral law? The law of human nature, the law of right and wrong. It's the only one that we can't observe as a law. We can see the law of gravity. We can be a part of it.
The effects. Like
it's one of those things where it's inherently in all of us. That's why we're doing a book study on Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis's book, that he was a spoken message over 3 broadcasts in World War II, the time frame 1942, 3, and 4. And it's beautiful because he does this thing that I think guys need to understand is of like, instead of talking about these high theological level of things that should be left for those people that are the experts and, that do it as their vocation, let's talk about what unites us, right? And this love that is God, the hope that comes with that, the faith and the joy, hope, faith, and love, are the 3 that we all have, if we can unblock it, and I think it boils down to this block that's in all of us. And, Yeah, I got on a little tangent there, but my whole point with all that is, go ahead.
I think, for people that are concerned about doing something like this because they are afraid it might clash with their, with Christianity, they think it might look bad in the eyes of God. There's loads to say about that. Where I would start though is just what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, that by their fruits shall ye know them.
You mind if I read that? I'm going to read that real quick. What were you going to look up? Sorry. I'm looking this up.
So basically, what that means is, basically all vines look about the same. A vine is a vine. It's hard to tell the difference from one vine to the other, but one vine might bear poison fruit.
Yep.
One vine might bear delicious grapes that are nourishing and healthy. And what Jesus was saying is you can know anything by its fruit. A wolf in sheep's clothing might look like a sheep, but what's the fruit it's going to bear? Well, eventually you're going to get eaten. Yeah. That's the fruit that it's bearing. So this treatment might look, similar to taking some other pill. Yeah. Taking a pill is taking a pill, but some pills come with suicide warnings.
Yeah.
Some pills come with people believing in God and not wanting to kill themselves anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the fruit we are producing with this medicine, with Ibogaine, with this experience at Ambio. So what's the fruit we're producing? The fruit is, almost a 100% satisfaction rate, at least a little less than 100% success rate, but still pretty close. And then the word of all you special operators who turn to God afterwards, have an experience with Jesus on the medicine, become more spiritual like you. Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor, hasn't missed a Sunday at church since his first Ibogaine experience. Rob O'Neill's faith has been deepened. I'm thinking of guys off the top of my head who have been public with these stories. Matty Roberts in the movie, his faith was reignited again. So what's the fruit we are producing? So if you were to take away, any scripture and just judge people by what happens in the world, by their fruit, well, the fruit that we are producing is incredibly healing and beneficial fruit.
Well, it's funny you say that, because in Matthew 7:15-23, it's talking about like what you're referencing with the fruit, but it's also talking about their stance too. Like the argument of watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus by their fruit you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. So that's Jesus.
I didn't know the sheep's clothing thing was in that as well.
I not only pulled out like bearing like their fruit, but it's also, because you mentioned this to me yesterday, and I was like, that's what my whole, like my spiritual growth is, not just like taking one verse and then making it what I want it to be. It's also like looking at who he's talking to, who the message is being written by, as best we can understand. And in this case, this is Jesus talking in the most profound sermon in the history of man, the Sermon on the Mount. And I'm telling you, if you're curious about how to live a fruitful life, Jesus's teaching on the Sermon on the Mount is a wonderful place to start. We did an 8-week dive into all the Beatitudes, the 8 Beatitudes. And there are these teachings of how to live this, like blessed are the peacemakers, all these different beatitudes, and broke down and did a weekly devotional on our fellowship Zoom that we do every Friday night. So I think the biggest thing that, if you go into it with this sense of being naive to what you're doing, or thinking that you're gonna meet God and go into this, and he's gonna show you exactly what to do, and I mean, that's not what this is about. Like, this is about on the front side. This is about not even the front side. It's like the healing side of what you mentioned about the Stanford study. Like, we can't gloss over the fact that that's neuroplasticity. That's the brain healing itself with this treatment, like, which breaks the mold from a neuroscience perspective of what's being taught. Like, I've been through NICO, right? And the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. They mentioned it in that documentary where DJ went through it. It's a wonderful 26 day, intensive outpatient treatment that you do up at Walter Reed. And, man, it starts with, you have to have a TBI diagnosis, but then they go from head to toe and just start to evaluate everything, and then diagnose things, and then start treatment. But the treatment, in a lot of ways, is here's your repertoire of medications that you're now on. From everything to, I'm having trouble sleeping, to like my brain, I can't cognitively focus, I can't think, I'm super depressed, I'm super anxious. It's here, we got something for that, we got something for that. And I'm not knocking any of it. It started for me. What I really took away from all of that is like, man, I got a lot of things that are going on, and I have to focus on this if I really do want to heal from it. But the cognitive rehabilitation that I went through there, because I got that, I needed cognitive rehabilitation, because I was at a deficit from blast injuries and post-traumatic stress, of what it does to the brain, the amygdala. It fries it, of being stuck in fight, flight, or freeze for so long. But through those cognitive rehabilitations, they're doing things like learning something new, and also while things are trying to also distract you, and trying to focus on learning something new while that's happening. And you keep coming back, keep doing your sessions. And it's just like, for what? Because they teach, or they tell you that once the brain damage has happened, the scar tissuing, you have to build a new pathway around it, a new kind of bypass. It's never going to heal itself. And which is what I think that Stanford study is showing with an Ibogaine treatment. It can be healed. Yeah. Which is extremely profound.
Yeah.
From a medical perspective.
I think it's important to have the context of, for centuries, for millennia, these substances that we now call psychedelic, which is a new term, but psychedelic means mind or soul manifesting. The psyche is mind or soul. The delic comes from delos, which means to make manifest. So psychedelic means mind or soul manifesting. And I think it's a good word, because at least what's happening is you're manifesting a new level of mind that you don't normally experience. But for centuries or millennia, these were recognized as pro-social. They were used in communities to heal. They were used for initiation. They were not hidden. Mm-hmm. You can look at indigenous.
They'd settle disputes in the tribe and stuff like that.
Settle disputes in the tribe. Whether it's ayahuasca in the Amazon, mushrooms in Mexico, Iboga in Africa, and even the Western world has a tradition. The ancient Greeks had a 2,000-year-old tradition. 2,000 years is a long time for a tradition to uphold, and it was the most important tradition in Greek society, and it was called the Mysteries of Eleusis. And we now know that the Mysteries of Eleusis had a potion called the kykeon, which had an LSD-type substance in it. So I think the Greeks, who made a lot of the rigid structures that we've got, like our form of government, our form of education, I won't even call them rigid, but they're structures. I don't think they ever intended for the psychedelic experience to be separated from those structures that they were building. And perhaps taking that away has metastasized into a lot of the problems that we have here on earth. But so many people who feel as though these substances are against the divine are the same people who might be okay with taking a petroleum molecule, modifying it, turning it into an antidepressant or antipsychotic, overprescribing them along with a dozen other similar chemicals. And but because they weren't outlawed in the late 1960s, early 1970s with a massive propaganda campaign around it, they're okay with their son or daughter taking a pill like this, even though it's got a suicide warning on it. Like, for me, that's a non-starter. Yeah. If you have to put a beware, you might be more prone to suicide by taking this product. If we need to put a label like that on anything,
or if you stop taking
that
it,
should not be allowed to be sold, man.
Or if you stop taking it, like, hey man, don't stop taking it, because if you do,
you might want to kill yourself.
You might want to kill yourself, which I'm not making light of this, because that's the why. Some of us, that wall that's being put up is impenetrable in our mind, right? In our mind, our experience, like, it is impenetrable. We've tried everything, self-medicating to different modalities of treatment. We are resistant to those things, to include God. Yeah. And we even push away from God. In my own experience, that's what I did. And I needed rescuing from myself. And it's not like Ibogaine was this God, that pill that rescued me. It just gave me an opportunity to access things that were blocked. Like that's that level of consciousness that people talk about, of enlightenment and all these things. It's like, man, for me, it just lowered all those walls that had built up through all the trauma responses, physical and psychological and spiritual, moral injury that I had inflicted on myself or been inflicted on by the environment. It just said, hey man, I'm going to give you an opportunity to actually access those things a bit.
All from a plant.
And gain a new perspective, that which God gave us.
From a plant that God gave us. Ibogaine itself, the alkaloid, is just one alkaloid made by a plant. There's no other way to make it. Mm-hmm. If it's not easily synthesized, it's a very complex molecule from a plant, from the root bark of a shrub that comes from Africa,
from the region of Gabon. Right?
So I don't know, if something grows out of the ground, I feel as though God legitimized it. And just because we have these propagandized ideas that psychedelics are bad, even when people say that it says in the Bible not to use substances like this, it doesn't. Like, that's your interpretation of a small section of the Bible. There, at no point in the Bible does it say don't use healing plants.
No, it more specifically tells us to be sober-minded. And for some of us, and that's a big part of it, is for me, like, having been sober for about a year when I went and did that first treatment with you, a big thing that I prayed about and I sought counsel, but it did take trust in you and in the treatment space that you've created and the team. But it was scary in the sense of, like, am I using this to escape? And that's where I think it's wonderful how I went through SOCF's trifecta treatment. I was like one of the first cohorts to go through it, but Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, which is Marcus and Amber Capone's nonprofit that supports, psychedelic assisted therapies like this. And they do this kind of pre-medicine. We keep calling this medicine. And I think that's something that we need to also touch on a little bit more. You kind of said something about it, but you do this pre-medicine counseling, coaching. Yeah. And one of the wonderful things that comes out of that is, like, your intention. And it's so important that you understand, at least at its like primitive level, of what that intention is. 'Cause you can start to go, well, I want to understand why that person treated me this way, or I want to understand why I acted this way. And you can
Never
write those
ask
things.
why questions.
Yeah, well, you can write all these things down, but at the end of the day, like, God knows your heart, and if you go into it with that intention of I just want whatever is blocking me to be lowered and to over time be removed. And if this treatment can help me do that, Lord, please, let this be.
Yeah.
And it's hope, right? Hope is the confidence it's the confidence in the expectation that God will, and the faith is the belief that God will do that. And the hope is the confidence in that expectation that God will. And it's one of those things where why I reference hope is it's so important, because the other side of hope is hopelessness. And that is the most scared I've ever been. Mm-hmm. And that line between hopelessness and taking your own life, which is what we're talking about here, that's the consequences of the demographic that is having these profound experiences with Ibogaine and in your facilities, is that we've reached this wall, this plateau of like, hey man, I keep digging holes. I'm just tired of digging holes, man. The next hole is my grave, and it's just circumstantial why that never happened to me, why I never made the most selfish decision I ever could, which would be to take my own life. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling everybody right now, like, the hope side of your the hope that the intention can bring of going into it, not worrying about asking specific things and trying to just obsess about it, because it's probably going to show you, if you watch a documentary as just an example of others, is man, it's just going to break down the root. It's going to allow you to get down to the root of the problem, which is for all of us is our childhood. Yeah. Which is, man, we've just built up these blocks from those moments. Because if my first visual memory was traumatic, why would anything else be not blocked, good and bad? So for me, that was the case. So as I got further away into the most elite unit in the military, like all of this was just stuff, man, that was just garbage that was blocked. And it wasn't, I'm not trying to say they weren't significant things, and not taking ownership of my role in hurting others and all of that. But man, it just kind of lowers that space, and then you got to do something with it though.
Yeah. And it seems to, I hear all the time people say they feel as though they walk into Ambio wearing a 50-pound rucksack, mm-hmm. which is just all that past light. Trauma, all that past heartache, which is light.
100.
And then they leave that after this experience, they leave it, and you get to keep all the good stuff. You keep everything that's actually valuable, but you can let go of all that crap that's been holding you down.
Yeah. So the medicine side of this. So like he mentioned this earlier about, it was in the 70s where the Class 1 Substance Act ruled all psychedelics as a Class 1 substance, which means of no medical use.
No medical use and a high chance of abuse, whereas Ibogaine is the most misclassified drug on that list. Yeah. It not only doesn't have a high chance of abuse, like nobody really enjoys taking Ibogaine. You hear about people maybe doing it once or twice. Nobody's doing it multiple times because they loved it in the moment the first time. They're doing it because they loved the results the first time. But the experience itself is not kind of a typical stereotypical ecstatic drug experience. In fact, it is highly anti-addictive. That's how we first learned about it in the modern Western world. It is incredibly good at taking people off of addictive drugs, particularly opiates. You can take Ibogaine if you're physically addicted to something like heroin or fentanyl, and virtually overnight your addiction disappears. The cravings disappear, and you don't have to go through the painful withdrawal symptoms normally associated with coming off opiates. So it's highly anti-addictive. There's zero chance of abuse, and even just in its ability to get people off of opiates, that's proving that it does have medical value. but it's also
and that's where
reversing traumatic brain injury. That's where I started,
right?
Was helping people in Vancouver come off of opiates. But it's reversing traumatic brain injury. It seems to be helping with Parkinson's disease. We have the world's first neuroregenerative program for things like Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis. We published one case study of brain scans of an MS patient who a MS lesion shows up in the brain as a spot on a brain scan. And the reduction of this spot after a series of Ibogaine doses, it was down 71% in size. And the guy who had these brain scans done, the nurse is like, I've never seen this happen before. I've never been able to provide good news to an MS patient before. Yeah. So it is definitely misclassified. So just because it is illegal does not mean it is illegal for a good reason.
Which is also, why I think it's important to, when I speak about psychedelics, I'm speaking more specifically about Ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT. And that's the treatments that I've gone through with you. And I've done it twice, but I don't need to do it again. And as an addict, that's mind blowing. Yeah. That not only can I maintain my sobriety, because that was one of the questions. The first time, am I using this to escape something else again? Am I using this to just go get high and everybody's okay with me doing it because it's treatment, and I had to be very intentional about, hey, I had those conversations with the people I love and I went down there knowing that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And then you find out experientially that it's not escape. It's putting things front and center. Here, look at this. You don't get to escape anything.
That's where people don't understand. Like, you guys have seen this on the set, but it's one of those things where I get chills. Like it doesn't allow you to escape anything, man. It does something. We'll speak on that too, but in the bonus episode, we're going to dive a lot deeper into like my own personal experiences with you. I just, for the sake of time, I don't think we have time to go into the depth that I want to on this episode, but it doesn't allow you to escape anything. So if your intention is to go escape, it's going to slap you right in the face.
Yeah.
And it's going to, like I said before, and if you watch the documentary, it's going to unlock things that maybe on the surface it's a life review, right? And for me, it was like this theater. I'm like Mystery Science 3000 theater, like sitting there, and I was like watching the people watching it, and it was just my life on the screen. And some of the scenes as they were ripping through, I was like, no, stop. Where'd that go? Like, come here. Like, I want to see what that was. And then it would stop, but it was never things that didn't actually happen in my life. It wasn't this like lucid trip. Mm-hmm. I'm going on this like, what's the word where you go and, like I'm going on this, it's a visuals, not hallucinations, mm-hmm. right? I'm not hallucinating. Now I will say that there are some scenes that I'll talk about where it was very vivid, of what was happening at the lowest point in my life and who was there. Now, maybe instead of it being a person, it was the devil. And then ultimately Jesus coming in, did a hostage rescue on me, threaded the needle, and I needed saving. And, man, we all need a savior, and it's not me. So it allowed me to truly see that I can be saved, that I am worth being saved, and that there is a savior, and his name is Jesus Christ. And some of us need rescuing from ourselves. We all need saving, but there is only one savior. And the rescuing of this is something I've done my whole life, and I just thought that that's the only reason I'm here, and I'm going to die doing it. So then when that didn't happen, I was like, well, why am I still here? My life was now meaningless at that point. So this experience allowed me to not only unblock all these things that were just being blocked from trauma, but also to bring and to pray for God and for Jesus to save me in that moment, that specific moment that was unfolding again that I had blocked. And I just was like panicking for that to stop, like for myself to stop doing what I was doing. And then I'm physically panicking. I remember to control my breathing. And then I prayed with such discernment, not just requesting, like demanding, Jesus, save me. I am here. Like, I am here to surrender my life to you. Just save me. And then his hand, and then the lesson, like he did with Peter on the water. When he took his eyes off of Jesus, he started to sink his hand first and then the lesson. And that's what I loved about this experience, is because it allowed me to pray with such confidence, discernment to my Savior. And then walking away from that, the lessons, just as I continue to dive into and to put on the full armor of God and dive into the word, which is the sword, which is how we can, it's the only offensive part of the armor that we can go on the offensive against our own sinful nature, against the world, against the devil. And that is God's word. So, man, it's beautiful. I said I wasn't going to dive into it, but I started to. I will dive into it a little deeper, because it's that whole experience was just, man, this death of ego thing that happens, man. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, it's in. I say whatever it is. It's not just whatever. It's you. It's you that's blocking you from healing.
Yeah.
And staying in the light, because you're living in the darkness. And some of us can't make sense of what that is. We can't look in that mirror. And it's when we see that reflection in the mirror, our first reaction is to look down, because we're disgusted with what we see. And that's not the truth, but those are the lies, man. Those are the lies you tell yourself, and the world tells us by our behaviors, and we need to have remorse, and we need to grow from those lessons. But it's not the end, right? That's the hopelessness, when you look in that mirror and you have to look down. Now I get to look in that mirror and I see the whites in my eyes. Can you put that photo up, actually, Starship? This is the day after that first treatment. And I just want to highlight, like, I'm on the plane flying back.
Oh, wow. And
it's just like, beautiful mug there. Just the whiteness in my eyes, and the clarity and the light.
Mm-hmm. We often do before and after shots of people's faces. It's amazing how much they light up like that.
But now I get to look in that mirror,
yeah,
and stare myself in the eyes, and not obsess about, oh, look at me. Just remove the ego every time I look. If I start to get conceited, if I start to get insecure, I immediately go to God and I say, I ask to remove that. I'm sorry for that, but please remove that from me every day. And that's where humility comes, and that's, humility is the opposite of pride. And, it's what we all, can mask with our arrogance and think I'm humble because I'm a quiet professional, but we're inside just this arrogant prick. And I'll do a burpee for that. But we're masking something, this blockage thing. And that's why I thought that documentary was beautiful, because these hardened warriors are pouring their hearts out, for everyone to see. So thank you guys for that. Thank you for doing what you're doing and being a good steward of that medicine.
You're welcome. I owe it all to God. It is I owe it to the 23-year-old self who desperately prayed, but truly prayed with sincerity, saying, God, please make some use of my life. I know I've got a purpose to live. Please show me the way. And that led to me trying to help a neighborhood in Vancouver called the Downtown East Side. And that led to me coming to Ibogaine. And everything good has come out of that young man's decision.
Well, thank you for that. it's personally impacted my life, my family's life, and it's such a blessing to be able to share my home with you and a little bit about what I do, over these past 2 days, and I'm looking forward to diving deeper into all of this in the bonus episode. But I do want to make sure that there's two things: the Ambio, if people want to reach, what does Ambio mean, by the way?
Ambio means multiple things.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
First, a whole bunch of meaning we put on top of it. So we worked with an incredible branding team. They came up with a whole bunch of names that we could possibly name our company. None of them was any good. We got another list, and then the second one on the list was Ambio. And we're like, that makes sense. And the reason it made sense initially to me is what we feel we are is where science meets spirituality. That's built into our DNA. So Ambio has that in it, in the I am, which the burning bush said to Moses, I am that I am. The burning bush also happened to be an acacia bush, which contains DMT, but the am.
And Jesus said, I am the way, the light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well. I am.
Yeah. He's the only person that's ever said
that. Is the truth,
yeah.
Is the life. And the bio is the biology. So bringing it down to earth, the science aspect of things. So where the am meets the bio, science meets spirituality. Ambio rhymes with cambio, which means change in Spanish. We help people change.
Cambiar is the verb without being conjugated.
Ambio rhymes with ambience, and ambience is important for the set and setting in a psychedelic journey. And then a year down the road, somebody came to the house and said, did you look up what ambio means? I'm like, I thought we invented the word. And it's actually a Latin word, which means to circle around, which is exactly what we do as well. One of the best comments I ever saw on one of the comment cards that came through is, it was something along the lines of, I stepped outside to the fire ceremony and I realized that this was their home and they were inviting us into their home. And I really love the vibe.
No, and that's
that's really what it feels
side
like.
Of it. It's
yeah.
like the safety that you feel once you get settled in, when you get down there. 5 days, right? Like would be a standard.
Yeah, our foundational program, which you see in the movie In Waves and War, now on Netflix, it's 5 days long. Our detox program's a little longer. Our neuroregenerative program is 1 day shorter. And yeah, you can find us at ambio.life. We have an incredible brand video that has just been released in the last week as well on our new website, which has just been updated. But the brand video itself is about 27 minutes long, and it has Rob O'Neill in it. It has Cody Alford in it. It has Alish Hemsky from the NHL in it. Some kind of civilians as well who have been helped. But it's a super powerful video, so I suggest checking that out.
This treatment, and we'll put links in the caption or of this episode to how to access Ambio, but it's open to not just, we talked a lot about special operations veterans, but it's open to private citizens that could also benefit, either through the traumatic response, through post-traumatic stress, or
even optimization.
Yeah.
Anyone that feels the call. If you want, it's great at making the well better as well.
Yeah. No, I think the intention, like when you asked me what the meaning behind, or connecting the meaning with blue bearing and all of those things. Mm-hmm. And, there's intention, and I love how it's the same for the way that you guys even came up with the name of the company. And I can validate that safety that you create, like from when you get there, from the staff to everyone. You never feel like, I've gone through treatments before where in places where it's like, oh crap, man, I'm like afraid who's going to come through the door next, like what are they going to do now? Or what am I going to have to do now? You have that fear of the unknown, which is courage, is to overcome that fear, because you're prioritizing something else over your own fear. So there's a bit of courage that's also with taking that step and trust, with that safety of the environment that you create there. So it's a wonderful place of healing that you can experience. And I won't say it's for everybody, but it's allowed me to, I call it the great interrupter. It's allowed me to make the changes in my life permanent, which is huge, which is what, now I have to continue to walk in those, that perfect practice makes permanent. So it's not like I've made it's permanent now. It's like, no, my practice is perfect, right? I practice with intention for it to be permanent. Right. So definitely excited to dive deeper into this. So definitely check out next week's episode on the Patreon bonus episode that can only be seen on Blue Bearing's Patreon, where Trevor and I dive a lot deeper into my personal experience with you. And I think it's going to be a really profound conversation. There's a lot of things that I think I may have shared with you, but or not about that experience as well. But we have a gift that we want to give you. Ooh. And this is from the podcast, but also, Blue Bearing. And there's also, I'll let you unpack it. There's a little surprise in there for you. So that's our with you line of shirts that we've been running and products. Wow. So there's a shoot house on the back. So if like inward, outward doors, hallways, but it's kind of on the nose too, with a cross in the center of it. And the with you is more than just two words. It's a verbal contract as we say it, but it's also a way of living life, knowing that you're never alone. And that's just our core Blue Bearing shirt.
Thank you. I think I'll have to share these with some staff.
I got something for Jose too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Oh, so that's a set of the ROKAs,
dude.
We'll see if you like those. Amazing. How they fit
for sure.
Those are the Falcon TI XLs, I believe. Looking good.
Yeah.
Sharp. No, it's cool because he was talking to me about that.
ROKA.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we know a gal at ROKA, Lucy. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast.
Thanks, Lucy.
Well, that's Blue Bearing with you. So 50% of
no gummy bears.
No gummy bears.
Yeah.
50% of the profit this year that from the With You line that we sell goes to the nonprofit Frontline Healing Foundation, which you can see here. This is a part of the board that I'm on now, where it's the only nonprofit that just subsidizes guys and gals, veterans, first responders, law enforcement that need help with it as it pertains to substance abuse as a primary diagnosis, and then post-traumatic stress, TBI. But we subsidize financial hardships. So I have to vote on these. This is a part of the Hope campaign, where we're trying to show people that they can be a part of giving, healing through light and hope. These are the 4 words that came to mind when I came up with this campaign with Erica and Jordan from Frontline. But I'm tired of having to say no to these hardships due to lack of funds. So I want you guys to know that this is a small way of $20 a month for the year is $240, get you this shirt. But also, if we hit our target of 1,000 people, man, that's $240,000 that we can raise so I don't have to say no right now. Because at the end of the year, people are submitting, these hardships because of insurance isn't paying for it, or claims got denied through the VA or whatever. But this is one way you can be a part of this. I don't want to say solution, but be a part of if you have the ability to give, that impact will be felt is what I'm getting at with it. So, lots to discuss in the bonus episode. So make sure to check that out at Blue Bearing's Patreon. Is it here? Is it there? I don't know. I made Starship smirk. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.